Today's show is brought to you by Audible, and right now you can get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/joined-up. There's over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle or MP3 player. Thanks for tuning in to the Joined Up Writing Podcast, a weekly show featuring interviews with fantastic authors sharing their personal stories on how and why they write. There's hints and tips for aspiring writers and great book reviews from top bloggers. Follow us on Twitter at JU Podcast. Right, cue the cheesy theme tune.
Put down your pen and stop your typing. Grab yourself a drink, 'cause it's Joined Up Writing.
Hello and welcome to the Joined Up Writing Podcast, where a little procrastination can go a long way. I'm Wayne Kelly and it's episode 69 with today's guest Tony Schumacher. Tony writes the John Rossett alternate history series set in the 1940s where England lost the Second World War. Aside from being a fantastic writer, Tony's a funny and inspiring bloke, and I know you'll be smiling throughout that interview. We've also got another book review from regular reviewer Victoria Goldman. Before we jump into all of that, a little catch-up from me. I've been doing rewrites on my own novel, Safe Hands. I'm spending loads of time trying to get the end of the book right. I don't think I've ever rewritten the same scene quite so many times. Now, in the background of all of this, I've been working on a non-fiction project collaborating with Maria Smith, which I'll be telling you more about in the coming weeks, but the chapter I've been working on for that this week has been around conquering self-doubt, and it's really got me thinking about how many of the issues I've been having have actually been to do with the self-doubt rather than the book itself. I tend to think about self-doubt as an evil little voice in my head. Don't worry, I'm not losing my mind. But if you write, you probably know what I'm talking about. It's the kind of voices that crop up when you're in full flow and they say things like, "You're not good enough," or "This is crap," or "You're not educated enough to be a writer," things like that. Or any other number of negative things designed to sabotage what you've been doing. And some of these issues come up in my chat with Tony actually, but I know from the dozens of interviews I've done over the years that it's actually something that every writer has to deal with, whether they've published one book or 10 books. It never goes away and you have to recognise it, tell those voices to shut the hell up and push on, especially in your first draft. So if you're feeling the same, don't listen to the voices. Does any of this ring true with your experiences, or do I just sound like a madman? How do you deal with self-doubt? Tweet me at MrKelly2U or JU Podcast. Leave a comment at joinedupwriting.co.uk or post a message on the Facebook page. Let me know you're out there and if the show inspires or entertains you. Speaking of which, thanks for the recent tweets from Ingrid Senger-Perkin, Angela Ackerman and Jackie Kabler, especially Ingrid, who tweeted to say that she'd been inspired by the show many times. That means a lot and it's why I spend so much time doing the show in the first place. So any feedback is really appreciated and lets me know I'm not just shouting into the void, so to speak. And if you do like the show, please take a second to leave a review on iTunes. It's so easy to do. Probably takes a few seconds, but it makes a huge difference to how many people can find the show, and it makes a difference to me and what we can do for the show as well. So have you done it yet? Why not? Okay, that's enough rambling on. Let's crack on with today's interview with Tony Schumacher. In addition to being published by HarperCollins, Tony has written for The Guardian, The Huffington Post and various magazines. He can often be heard on the BBC or LBC radio, and he's made loads of films for the BBC's politics show. Prior to writing, Tony had been a stand-up comedian, an actor, a policeman, a taxi driver, a bin man, and he even sold underwear in the Caribbean, and that actually comes up in our chat, so you'll hear that a little bit later. The Darkest Hour and The British Lion were the first two books in the John Rossett series, and the third in the series, An Army of One, has just been released. I always love talking to Tony, and this was another cracking chat that I know you'll enjoy. Okay, Tony, thanks a million for coming on Joined Up Writing Podcast again. It's brilliant to have you on. I think it's been longer than I thought, actually. I think it's been a good 18 months, maybe 2 years, has it, since you last came on, I think?
Do you know what, Wayne? It feels like about 2 years. I don't know.
I think it probably
years,
is.
I think, to be honest with you. It's a long time, isn't it? But there's quite a big gap between my first and second book for some weird reason with HarperCollins is kind of marketing. So
right.
That's probably why it feels like it's so long. I mean, I've grown a beard and gone grey.
And I've lost more hair, so yeah, it must be.
More?
Yeah, because I think when we spoke to you the first time, I think, as you say, I think your first book had just come out, or not long. I think the paperback had just come out when you did that interview with us. And I think, from a memory, I haven't revisited the interview, but I think you'd written the second book. Is that right? Because I think you...
That's right, yeah.
And it just took a long time to come out, yeah.
Yeah, I think the British Lion came out in about 2014, I think. But, they always have this thing where they say, right, we're going to bring them out like once every 12 months, these marketing geniuses kind of thing. And then I think, I don't know, probably someone like Lee Child or something like that decided he wanted to write a book, so I got banged right down the shelves,
Put you out, yeah.
Quite right too, as well, by the way. But yeah, and then the next one, I'll be honest with you, the next one, The British Lion, that come out and that was great. There was no problem with that. But then the latest one, An Army of One, which come out in December, I think, in the UK, and it was October in the US, that was kind of my fault because I missed the deadline by about a month.
Oh, right. So you can't really moan about that.
I'll cop to that one, yeah.
Well, why don't you start off telling, for people that don't know, just tell us about your John Rossett series, and you just mentioned it there, your latest book in particular, An Army of One. Tell us about that.
John Rossett, we've all, every writer who comes on, has probably written like a detective fiction kind of book, and I wanted to do something a bit different. That's not saying there's anything wrong with those detective fiction books and stuff, because they're brilliant, I read them myself and I love them, but I kind of wanted to do something a little bit different, and I was always fishing around looking for a new spin and stuff, and it ended up, I come up with this guy who is a cop in England, but we didn't call him cop when he was alive. It was 1946, and he was a bobby in England. And just to further complicate things, Britain's lost the war, and unfortunately, John Rossett, he's a war hero. He fought really well for the British during the war, but after his internment, after losing the war, he's ended up finding himself working for the SS, doing things that no man should do. He's got mixed up in the Final Solution. It's just an absolute hell for him, what he's going through. And then over a period of time, John awakens, and John realises that what he's doing is wrong, and he's been in a kind of a stupor because he's lost his family during the war. His wife and his son have been killed, and he's in a very bad place. But slowly, he wakes up in the first book, with the help of a small child who he saves, and small Jewish boy who he saves. Excuse me. And then he, over the course of the next two books, The British Lion and then An Army of One, the latest one, we see a more mature character, I think. Because as you go on, you know yourself as you go on and you're writing, you get better as a writer. So in theory, that's not saying my first book's rubbish, by the way. I just want to clarify.
And I can confirm it actually is brilliant. I've read the first two books. I've not read An Army of One yet, but I've read the first two books and I love them. They're brilliant. And I did really enjoy the first one, but I agree. I think the second one's even better than the first one.
I think you get better, I think it's like anything you do, innit? If you paint the wall, you're going to get better as you go.
You should do, yeah.
Well, in theory, yeah. Look, if you saw my decorating, you probably wouldn't agree with that. But it's but as you go along, you do, you kind of get better at stuff, and you start. I think it's Robert Crace. I might be wrong. It might be Michael Connolly, but I think it's Robert Crace, the American author, who said when he wrote his first book, he said it, when he submitted this first book to his publisher. And they said, well, we don't like that, and he sort of went, oh, okay, because I don't know what I'm doing, and he went along with it, and the book was released, and it was a great book, and it was the Monkey's Overcoat, I think it was, Monkey's Raincoat, and it went well, no, listen. And the second book come along, and he said he submitted this book to his publisher, and he said, well, we don't like that, and he thought, well, do you know what, I could have, I kind of like this and I like that. I'm feeling a bit more confident. I'm a slightly better writer now, and I feel a bit more confident to stand up to you. So, I'll meet you halfway. And he said, by the time his third book come along, they said, we don't like this, we don't like that, we don't like this. And he said, I don't care, because I've written 3 books now, and they're all bestsellers, so you just print it and have done with it, you know.
Yeah.
And everyone used to say to him, oh, you got a much better writer. And he said, no, I realised I was a really good writer at the beginning. It was just that they kept telling me to take all the good stuff out. I'm not necessarily saying that's the case with me, but I do think you do get better. I think
you do, and probably, I mean, I did speak to Matt Johnson recently, and similar to yourself in the fact that he'd been a police officer and stuff in the past, and he'd got into writing books about they were thrillers and all this kind of thing, and he got published and worked with a professional editor for the first time. And he said the first time that he worked with a professional editor, it was a big shock. You know, it was like, well, you need to change this, you need to do this, whatever. But he said that he did learn really, really quickly, and sort of by the second book and by the third book, you know, the stuff he was getting back, as you say, you'd hope that was the case, because you should kind of be learning and getting better. Yeah. You know, it was less, and he kind of really, really learned from that process.
Yeah, you do. You definitely do learn. I mean, I work with David Heifel in HarperCollins in New York, and you know, almost immediately you have these moments where you think, nah, he's wrong. You know, you have to, no, I'm not changing that, he's wrong, you know. And then you read it and you think about it, you go away and you have half a day and you come back and you're looking at it again, and then you go, actually, no, he's right, you know. And it's a weird balance, to get, you know, to fight your battles and stuff. But at the same time, these people know what they're doing. That's why they're on $200,000 a year, you know. Exactly, I mean, this is the thing. You've just got to accept it and just go along with the fact that these people know more than you, you know. My agent, Nat Sobel in New York, he's like this legendary guy. He's been, how God's name I've ended up with him, I don't know, but he's like this legendary agent, you know. And he, working with him, I've been so lucky working with him, because he's someone he's very hands-on. A lot of modern agents, I mean, people who haven't been published, I don't know if they're interested, but a lot of modern agents nowadays will just get you your deal, pat you on the back, and give you to the editor and just say, right, crack on now, and that's it, you know, and come back when you're in your next book. With somebody like Nat, he's very old school in that he will take a paper manuscript and we'll go through it line by line, and we'll check everything before it goes anywhere near a publisher. Right. So in a way, it's like double filtration, you know. It's like you go through his kind of edit, and then, which is kind of rigorous, and then you go on to HarperCollins one, which is like, oh God, forensic. You know, Spanish Inquisition. It's honestly, it's awful, you know. But at the end of it, it's hopefully you end up with 3 decent books, you know.
So what sort of? I'm not asking you to tell me like all the things that are wrong with your books the first time they send you off. But have you found have you found over the course of the 3 books, are there sort of similar things? Some of the similar things that you tend to fall into, or have you got like little writers, you know, traits or whatever that you know? So
do you know what I do? And I've got to a point now where I can see it now, but I use a lot of alliteration without realising, and I do it in my own speech, you know.
I was going to say that's just probably to do with where you're from, though, isn't it? As much as anything else.
Yeah, it really is, you know. And it's a thing, like it's obviously a Scouse thing, you know, but it's I use it a lot, and I have to I've got quite good now at spotting it. But like it'll go, and I think, right, well, let's see, I've cleared all that out. You know, you can use the odd one, like, you know, you get away with the odd, like, you know, 3 words or something like that. Yeah. But you know, you get it back, and all you can see is these red lines in the magazine, and you go, I've done it again. Now is that even, you know, 3 times on one page? You know,
you should go, you know, start writing songs or something. That's
yeah, possibly so. Yeah. But it's a weird thing. So that's one thing I've done, and the other thing is as well is, when I write, I do this thing, and you know what? I've had a lot of readers have said, "Oh, I really like that you do that." Which is, I'll have a minor character. Say, bring in a minor character who features for like 3 pages. You know, just this guy who just turns up and he's there to open a gate and walk down the corridor or something like that. I've got a terrible habit of having this guy for 3 pages and writing 4 pages of his backstory. And I'll put this thing in, like I'll have this young kid, who's 18, who's joined the army or something like that. And I'll have this thing saying, I'm making up a name here, Wolfgang Hertz joined the army. And, and I'll write his dad was in the army.
His first girlfriend was called,
Honestly, I'll do the full thing and I'll write this big 4-page thing, and occasionally that's quite nice.
Yeah.
It's sort of, it's good because I like to think that as I'm writing it gives me a better depth of character, So even if he is only an ancillary character, it makes me feel good because I kind of know him and I value him.
I was going to say, it probably doesn't hurt for you to know it, though, as much as anything else.
Oh, it's great for that, but I'm not necessarily sure I should put 30 of them in a book, So like, Arthur Collins will come along and go, who's this taxi driver we've got 4 pages about, and I go, oh, all right, then, so we'll cut him out, And so, but I always try and leave a couple in. And when I do, I always get good feedback on it, to be honest with you. You often get reviews or you'll get...
I wonder what happened to him,
Yeah, people will drop you a line and stuff like that. But it's, like you say, it's nice. I think a lot of writers do it. It just do it off their own back kind of thing, and we'll just write notepads with these things in. But I like to put them in a book because I think it makes you think more about just... There was a thing that Nat said to me about 3 years ago, when he said, it doesn't matter if somebody's in your book, they're important, even if they're just someone in a cafe, somebody sitting opposite someone in a cafe who makes eye contact or something. And he said to me, every person who breathes in that book is important. And I think it might come from that, is that it makes me make just a tiny bit more effort with it. But you do find personally that if I do put that effort into painting them, slightly, using a slightly, finer brush and just painting them and adding a little bit of depth to them, they do tend to come across for me, a bit
more three-dimensional, I know in my writing critique group sometimes you'll have it where someone's critiquing something and they'll say, oh, that character that you had in there, you had him like wearing a hat. I don't think you should have him wearing a hat. And you're like, well, he's got a hat because I say he's got a hat, and that's what I see when I'm writing the scene. That's what I see when I'm writing it. So, and it's similar. I'm guessing it's similar for you. It's like, well, that character is what they are and what you said about them because that's how you see it, and they're obviously an important part of the scene.
This is why I couldn't go to the writing group because everyone would end up in a headlock by 8 o'clock. It would do my. I couldn't handle it at all. I really. Do you know what my character's like? And, once they're in the book, people can say what they want about them. But while they're in my head, they're my characters and nobody's telling me if he's wearing checked trousers.
Well, that's the thing. I think some people, to me, that's not really what writing critique should be. Oh. It should, fair enough if, like you say, if you've got too much alliteration or, you've used a dodgy metaphor or, you should be showing more and be not telling or whatever. But, I agree. It's like, I don't think he'd do that. And it's like, well, he did do that because he's my character and I know what he'd do. So, that's... Yeah. That's
I always struggle with the whole idea of a writer's group. When I started writing, I was driving a cab when I started writing. For those who haven't...
remind us,
everyone who was never heard of me. I was like, I'd always wanted to be a writer when I was a kid, and then I just bombed out of me English O-level GCSE, and I got a U in my O-level, and literally stumbled out to school crying my eyes out because I thought, right, that's that dream up in the air. And then when I was 40, circumstances happened and stuff like that, and I was a copper and I was fed up and things had gone on in my private life, and I just decided to didn't have any kids, so I thought, right, I'm just going to pack everything in and start again and do what I wanted to do, which was to be a writer. So I toyed with the idea, and I was talking to a mate of mine one night on the phone. What I ended up doing, was driving a cab to kind of get myself, to pay for dog food really, and to buy myself some time to learn how to write, is what I thought. I'm going to write, okay, well, I'm going to take 2 years and I'm going to learn how to write. And I was talking to a mate of mine one night, and I said, I'm thinking of doing a writer's like qualification, some kind of, I didn't even think I'd be able to do a degree because my O-levels have been that bad, like, but I thought, I'm thinking of doing this, and he said to me, why are you bothering? Why don't you just write the book? You've got an idea. Why just write it? Why go to college and learn how to write? And that's not in any way, shape or form criticising people who do that, because if that works for you, that works for you kind of thing. But it was a real sort of obvious thing suddenly hit me in the face. I thought, actually, he's right. Why spend 2 years learning how to write when I could just be learning how to write by writing?
It is. You're right. Yeah. Do it.
I think if you can be self-critical, if you can take a step back from your own work, which is hard, we've already discussed my alliteration problem, but it is hard to take a step back. But if you can do that, I just can't see the point in going and having someone tell you how to do it. It just seems weird to me.
I suppose the other thing, though, to a certain extent, I mean, and again, this is a conversation I've had with lots of people that we've had on here before, is this whole nature-nurture thing that you talk about with writing. So there's some people absolutely categorically say, well, you cannot teach writing. It's in their opinion, you can't teach, or at least you can't learn how to be a great writer. You can sort of learn the mechanics of like how to write.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah,
to a certain extent, you can either tell a story or you can't, or you can recognise what a good story is or you can't. Because some people can't. A bit like with singing, to a certain extent, some people are tone deaf, and they cannot hear that they're out of tune. They cannot hear what the tune is, and I think there is the equivalent sometimes of that with writers. I have come across a couple, people in.
Oh God!
You've had they've spent a lot of time and effort reading books, going on courses, blah blah blah. But at the end of the day, they just cannot tell that it's not very good.
Do you know what I have a thing where? There's always the argument: would Ernest Hemingway been any better if he'd gone to Salford Polytechnic? And I doubt it. You know what I mean? I doubt it. But he might have been. I don't know. But does that? I've always thought the trick. Obviously, you're dead right. Some people just are. I'm tone deaf, so some people just are tone deaf and just don't get it. But I'm a great believer in the Microsoft Word text to speak, text to talk, I think it's called. Where you just highlight some text and press the voice icon. Yeah. And I think if it doesn't sound right on paper, forget the words. If it just doesn't sound right, that to me, you can almost it can almost be in a foreign language. I think if it just doesn't sound right with that computerized voice, just talking the words out. It really works for me. That.
Well, to a certain extent, that is, I would say, that is the benefit to me of a writing critique group, because that is the one thing. You do. If you go to one of the things, you have to read it out, and usually before you get any critique back, just you reading it whilst you're reading it out to a group of strangers or whatever in a room, you're reading it out. And it's funny because you can do that at home, and if anyone's listening, I advise you to do that as well. If you're sitting at home and if you've written something, it's
don't do it on the bus. Don't do it on the bus.
Be a bit careful. Be a bit careful. I've just seen some blokes with white coats coming out of Tony's house again, but.
That's not to do with me. But go on.
But I think if you do that, you can actually tell as you're reading it out. That as you say, you're like, or if you stumble over something, you'll often think, why did I stumble over that? Well, there's too many words there, or I could have cut that down,
really,
and that's
definitely, because there's a rhythm there. When you do, you get that rhythm of text and speech. Definitely, dialogue. If you're writing dialogue. Definitely, absolutely 100%. That the rhythm to me is everything. Because if you I listen to conversations all the while, on a bus and stuff. Well, not on a bus, I don't use public transport. But if I'm on, we're in a pub or something like that, and I'll listen to, conversations and stuff like that. And to me, definitely, if you can get that rhythm right, it's like a good film, isn't it? If you listen to, a good. If you watch a good film or you listen to a good radio play or something like that, if the rhythm's right, the writing's right, I'm a real firm believer in that. Like, you're on a winner, definitely.
Completely. And speaking of dialogue and how you speak, obviously, if people haven't worked out, Tony, tell them where you're from. And
Kensington and London. I'm from Liverpool.
And on that subject, obviously, your latest book, because your first two books are set in London, aren't they? Or big portions of them are set in London. So you decided finally to move to your hometown. Why did it take you 3 books to get there? And you know.
I'm sick of people asking me, to be honest with you. I mean, it's true, honestly. Everyone was always... I did an interview on BBC Radio Merseyside about 18 months ago, you know, and
I can understand them being a bit peeved about
saying,
it.
Like, well, hang on, you're not like them in Liverpool. But the thing is in Liverpool, there's loads of really good Liverpool writers at the moment. There's loads of them, like, and they're all writing about Liverpool. So I thought, oh, well, you know, why do I want to do that? They're all doing it. And plus, the fact, and I've said this countless times, you know, I live here, and when I'm writing, I want to go on holiday, you know, and I want to see places that I don't live in, and I want to kind of experience that kind of thing of travelling, even if I'm sitting at my desk writing.
Although you are sort of travelling back in time, aren't you? Because
yeah, there is that, and that's how I've sold it to myself, to be honest with you, that it's not the Liverpool that I know now, you know, which is all shiny buildings and investment. Like, this is more the Liverpool that I kind of grew up in, which was... You know, it's hard to believe, but when I was a kid, I mean, I'm 50 now, but when I was a kid, there was still, like, bomb sites around the place and stuff like that, you know, so I've kind of returned to that, you know, that kind of slum Liverpool. Some people would say it's still, no, but it's not, you know.
It's not.
It definitely isn't. And so it's been nice to do that. And actually, in a way, I'm kind of regretting that I didn't come back sooner, to be honest with you, because I did quite enjoy it, you know, and I went driving around scenes. A lot of it's set in the docks. John Rossett's, he's come back to Liverpool. He's not working for the SS anymore. He's ended up being a cop once again, but unfortunately he still can't get away from the Germans, and he's ended up working alongside a German Kripo, you know, who are like the kind of criminal police. And he's working alongside this guy, and they've had to come and investigate a crime in Liverpool, which is run by the Nazis, just about run by the Nazis, because the whole of the north of England has kind of fallen into disarray. And it was nice a lot of it's set round by the docks, you know, these kind of, because Liverpool's a massive container port now, that's kind of, it's a lot of the old docks are still here and kind of abandoned. They're in the process of being redeveloped now, but a lot of them are still abandoned. So it was great to go up there, driving around all these places that haven't been done up yet, you know, and spend time walking around on a cobbled street and stuff. I really enjoyed it. And also, a lot of my family worked on the docks when I was a kid, so it was nice to go up there and have a look at those places and kind of experience that, you know, without having to get dirty.
Well, I was going to ask you about that, but obviously because it is your hometown and you've got your family and everything else there, did you feel more of a responsibility or like a pressure to get things right? Have your relatives, many of your relatives read it, and what have they had to say about it?
Well, they all said he've read it, but you know what I mean? That's the writer's lot in it. You know, I love the book. Oh, yeah, what happened on page 32? You know, everyone starts shrugging, you know, all looking at each other. But, no, you know, I loved the research part of it, to be honest with you. As we're talking now, actually, I'm just on my screen in front of me now. I'm reading about the inner German border, which went up after the war, you know, and it's so, like, I love that research thing. I love the whole spending time looking at old maps and stuff like that, and you know, and I love to think, I'm probably a bit sad really, but I love to think about, like, say if I've got a foot chase, there's a foot chase in this book of a guy running up and down alleyways and stuff like that. I love getting in the car and driving down there and finding alleyways for them to run up and down.
That's
I love
great,
that thing, because you can walk up, you know, and you can smell the catway, and you can smell the rubbish piled in backyards and alleys and stuff like that. So that hopefully means you're going to get it right. Do you know what I mean? You like to think you're going to get it right in conjunction with maps and stuff like that. So no, touch wood. Now you've said it, someone's bound to pull me up on something now. I remember when the first book comes out, this guy who he sent me this email from America, and he said, you're you know, and I thought I'd been really, like, rigorous in my research, you know, and really put loads of effort. And he put this thing to me, and he said, you said that he'd emptied the magazine of an MP40, you know, in a second and a half. And I went, well, yeah. And he said, well, you know, it's 1 3/4 seconds that it was. But, mate, you know what I mean? It's just, other than that, the book was good, he said. I was like, what do you mean other than that? Read it with a stopwatch. Get a life.
I mean, if you did that with, like, film and TV, you'd never watch anything.
No. I know.
They take massive liberties in TV programmes.
Well, you know what? This is the thing. Another guy emailed me, and he said, you put 2 brake lights on the back of a car that didn't have them. And I said, Well, I wrote back to him and I said, listen, thanks for your feedback, but I also said Germany won the war. You're not complaining about that, you know.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
I bent the rules, you know what I mean? It's it's fiction. It's not like.
Plus, you don't know the knock-on effect of that. You know, you've got to follow the ripple effect. That could have led to that car being redesigned and having two brake lights on. You just don't know.
Honestly, I'll have to get another account and we'll be here all night. It's a weird thing that happens, though. But I love the research part of it. I think that's. As long as it doesn't get in the way of writing. I do think a lot of people, I do my research as I go along. And I know a lot of writers, or people who want to write, will say to you, I've got a great idea for a book. I just need to spend a little bit of time lining up, this and that, and the name of that street, and how many trees are on it and stuff. Just write it. You can fix all that afterwards.
I agree. I've fallen into that trap before. It's procrastination a lot of the time.
Absolutely, it is. Yeah,
I'm not ready to write it. Yeah, I just use square brackets and capital letters now. When I get stuck, I'll just say name of gun here or name of safe here or something like that. I mean, I'm terrible, and I'm so bad that when I'm writing a manuscript in the minute, and I'll forget the name of a character that loads of time, and I think even that sometimes if I start going back and trying to find out where the last time was I said it or whatever it was, I can waste half an hour doing it. I just put name here. I've got to sort it out at the edit or whatever.
Yeah, I do. I put a word in. I'm using oozlum. I'm working on another manuscript at the moment, and I put the word oozlum. I don't know if you ever saw Carrying Up the Jungle years ago when there was Frankie Howard was hunting this bird called the oozlum bird, and I write if I get to a part of something where I can't remember a character's name or I can't remember what car they were driving or what they were drinking or something, I just type oozlum, and
that's
then
a great idea. You just search and replace.
It's so easy, mate. Honestly, you can just click through them at the end and just find, and then go, right, okay, I need to sort that. And it's great. But pick a word you're not going to use. Which is it's just the worst thing in the world. Don't put your mum's name or something like that because you'll just be there forever. It's a nightmare.
Yeah, that's a good tip, actually. Okay, let's take a very quick break there for Book Bloggers Corner, which comes from show regular Victoria Goldman. Victoria is a freelance health journalist and editor, as well as an avid book reviewer. She blogs at Off the Shelf Books, which features reviews and interviews with authors, publishers, editors and agents. You can also find her on Twitter at Victoria Goldmar2, where she's also sharing quality content like her Publishing Life series, so go and look her up. Today she reviews This Is How It Ends by Eva Dolan.
This is the BBC Book Bloggers Corner.
Today I'm reviewing This Is How It Ends by Eva Dolan. I'll start off with a blurb. This is how it begins. With a near-empty building, the inhabitants forced out of their homes by property developers. With two women, idealistic, impassioned blogger Ella and seasoned campaigner Molly. With a body hidden in a lift shaft. But how will it end? So what do I have to say about This Is How It Ends? A good indication is if I describe my reaction when I finished reading the book. It was late in the evening and everyone else in my house had gone to bed. When I finished reading, I sat for a while gazing into nothing, surrounded by silence. I wanted to shout about issues the book raised, as it certainly provoked a lot of strong emotion. I also wanted to share my enjoyment and my admiration for the author on social media. Yet first of all I needed some time to think and to process everything I had read. While this is a psychological thriller, it is also so much more than this. I can't say much about the plot without giving anything away, but the book, as mentioned in the blurb, begins with a man's dead body. The narrative flits between two main characters, Ella and Molly. Having hidden the man's body in the lift shaft, both women are now having to deal with the emotional repercussions of their actions. Ella is a young activist, university student and blogger, squatting in a semi-derelict tower block in London. Her neighbour Molly is an experienced activist and has taken Ella under her wing, trying to keep her safe. Both women come from very different backgrounds, yet have a common goal: to defend the building's tenants as the owners try to evict them, so that they can build luxury flats. The book jumps backwards and forwards in time, before and after the man's death. The plot is complex and intelligent, filled with social and political conscience and some highly topical and ethical contemporary themes. This Is How It Ends would have been written long before the Grenfell Tower tragedy, yet it reinforces cases of social injustice and health and safety issues that have arisen in the last few months. The book is bang up to date, focusing on the plight of the underdog against big property developers. I don't think I've ever been so invested in a book's characters before, shaken and shocked by events as they unfolded right until the bitter end. Eva Dolan is a force to be reckoned with. Her writing is stunning and really draws the reader in. This is a masterclass, with its multi-layered plotting, realistic characters and twists that actually work. It's the author's 5th novel, and, in my opinion, is her best yet, a book that will challenge you and leave you reeling. This Is How It Ends may be the book's title, but for Eva Dolan, I'm sure this is just the beginning. The book is published by Raven Books on January 25th, 2018.
Book Bloggers Corner.
Okay, that was This Is How It Ends by Eva Dolan, as reviewed by Victoria Goldman. Thanks, Victoria. Right, back to my chat with Tony, where I asked him if he's working on anything new. You've got 3 books out at the minute. So you mentioned you're working on another one. Is that another one in this series, or is that something else?
I'm always inclined to say no spoilers, but I'll be honest with you, this is a standalone novel I'm working on at the moment, only because I fancied a break from that world. I just fancied a bit of a break from that world. And unfortunately, what's happened is, as is always the case, I've ended up, I think I've done about 60,000 words on this one novel. I've been writing for the last 4 months, but I've got to a point where I've had another idea for a novel, and I've ended up writing 15,000 words for that last week, and I'm suddenly in a position now where I'm thinking, oh God, I want to crack on with that one.
It's always a younger model, attracting you from the sidelines. Yeah,
it really is. And also, I've been lucky enough to get a script and working with a company, and so that's also on my desk as well at the moment. So I'm kind of flitting around these 3 things at the moment, which is good fun actually, because it's not fun, it's murder, but it's that thing about where you're not getting too stuck on one thing. I'm lucky enough to be flitting around all 3.
You can flick to another one. So when you wrote that first novel, when did you suspect that you might be writing a series, or that you could write more in the same story, in the same world, should I say?
I didn't, to be honest with you, because in the first novel, in the second draft, I think it was, John died at the end, and it was still, even, in fact, it may have even been the third draft, to be honest with you, but it was quite late in the process where he died in the end, and it was only when I finally got an agent and he read it and said, "Why, don't kill him, because this is a really good character," kind of thing, and you're throwing him away and you'll regret doing it, even if your next book, because we hadn't even sold The Darkest Hour at that point, but he said, even if your next book isn't him, you'll regret, in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years down the line,
you want to revisit it.
That's right, and so I underhand and stuff, and in the end, I'll go on then. And I left it kind of ambiguous, really, at the end of the first novel. Yeah, whether or not he dies or not. And that was kind of me sort of taking my heels and saying, I want him dead. And, my agent, Narva Collins, saying, no, we don't want him dead. And so you are a little bit tied to that. Because I didn't really want to write a series, to be honest with you. I'm quite flighty. I've had about 30 jobs, and I didn't necessarily want to get stuck. It's funny. I love Michael Connelly and stuff like that, and people who write these books, these incredible series of books that just keep, revisiting these characters, and it's brilliant, and I love all of that. But I always kind of saw myself, and this is me seeing myself. I'm not in any way, shape, or form, saying that but I always felt myself being a Stephen King kind of guy, and just write a book, and just it'll be whatever comes into my head. But then suddenly you realise I've got a mortgage to pay, and HarperCollins are breathing down your neck saying we want the next one. So you have to be flexible. But I've bought myself a little bit of time now. And also, I've left it again, no spoilers, but I've left it open that I can revisit John again down the line, and I will do as well. Definitely, I will go back to him, definitely.
At some stage. Yeah, I completely get that. So I don't suppose you want to spoil the manuscript that you're writing on at the minute, but is it a similar sort of genre, or is it
It's
what is
modern.
it?
It's modern fiction. It's modern crime fiction. Because I see so many people writing it, and I thought, I wonder, can I do that?
Mm-hmm.
And it was that thing about, I wonder, could I write one of them? It's not. I'm kind of. I read a lot. Obviously, in any half decent writer should, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm kind of bored a little bit with the whole serial killer thing and all of that,
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's not saying that the books I'm reading are rubbish, because they're not. They're brilliant. It's just I'm a bit sick of reading them.
Yeah.
So I've got a guy who's, without giving too much away, who's an ex-copper who's fallen on hard times, and who's, faced with a situation that he has to try and resolve using his old skills, kind of thing, both from before the police and whilst he was a copper. So it's a kind of I've deliberately swerved away from like a police procedure. One, because I left the police because I was sick of police procedures, and I don't want to sit in the house and suddenly get loads of
Busman's holiday, innit? Yeah, going back.
And a lot of people love them, and I'm not knocking that. But just for me, at the end of the day, I'm really lucky to be a full-time writer. But at the end of the day, I don't really want it to feel like it's a job when I sit down, start worrying if I've filled in the right property form, and stuff like, because people are like that now, if you get the wrong form and stuff.
Yeah.
It's also the other thing about modern crime novels is I always think, having mobile phones and stuff makes it so easy. So I've set myself a kind of a target to get away from that,
That is hard. I talked about that before. It's really difficult, which is why a lot of people, and I completely understand it, but you can sort of get away with it at the minute because there are still places you can go where you can't get a signal, but it tends to be the same things. It's like they can't get a signal or the battery goes.
Yeah. Oh, the battery goes is a classic, isn't it? And in fairness, my battery lasts about 5 minutes. So I suppose it does.
Exactly. Yeah, it does.
It's just like,
but it's always at the worst possible minute.
Yeah, I was like the chief inspector Google or something like that, though. I always think, oh God, I solved that in 10 minutes. Just get on the internet, But I don't I used to love those old like Rockwood files and stuff, where you'd have to stand in a call box and punch in a number and look for a dime, So that's kind of what I'm trying to get back to, that like a little bit. I've created a guy who's not into all that, and I'm trying to get a guy who's trying to get back to just being not off the grid as such, but a little bit confused by technology. I like the idea of that.
He's a bit more of an old school type bloke.
I basically just described myself, to be honest with you. I've just looked at the minute with my Windows phone and all that kind of stuff, So yeah, that's
squinting at it and jabbing it with one finger. Yeah. You mentioned there about your range of jobs, which we talked about a bit last time you came on. Obviously, we talked about the story about how you became, went from taxi driver to writer or whatever. But one of the things I saw another interview with you recently, a video interview that you did with a lady in a bookshop.
Yeah.
And
Jacqueline Kirkham, I think.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And there's something you said in it, and Jacqueline just completely didn't seem to pick up on it at all. She just took it in stride.
To be honest
and I thought, whoa! I was like, hang on a minute, did he just say that? So I just wanted to check. So I'm pretty sure you said. At one point you said, I was selling underpants on cruise ships.
That's correct. Yes, I was. Yeah. I'm a man of many talents.
And she was just like, yeah, And I thought, hang on, you do realise you just said selling underpants on cruise ships. Now, I've been in bands and stuff. I've played on cruise ships and all that. And, people go on and they're waiters but I've never heard anybody say that they sold underpants on a cruise ship. I wouldn't have even known there'd have been a big call for that, to be honest.
Well, it was, what it was. No, serious, there was a big demand for underpants, and not just mine. There was a thing, it was with Costa Cruise Lines. I've got to be careful I don't say anything libelous because I don't want to breathe it down my neck. But the people who crashed the ship years ago and people tried.
Yeah.
Well, I worked for them for a while, and they had. I mean, this is a long time ago. It was in the 90s, so I'm going to be careful. But there was an issue with baggage going missing, let's just say, in the Caribbean.
Right, okay.
And they had this thing where they used to give vouchers out to passengers, for
so
people
who lost everything. Their underwear.
Basically, you lost everything. You get in the ship, you're going away for 2 weeks sailing around the Caribbean, and all you've got is the clothes you stand up in. So the company who I worked for decided that they were going to open these, not not like souvenir shops. You could buy everything. You could buy clothing in there. And the first day I arrived, what I didn't know was, I told a white lie, to be honest with you. I fancy working in the Caribbean. And what happened was, somebody said to me, apply for this job. I said, yeah, great. And the woman who interviewed me on the phone from Florida said, you do speak a foreign language, do you? And I said, oh, yeah.
Yeah, Scouts.
Yeah, Scouts, yeah. And it sounds, they put me on an Italian ship, long story short, and I did not speak any Italian whatsoever. Which quickly became apparent when all the passengers come on, and I didn't have a clue. It was like a low. I didn't have a clue, not one word. And luckily enough, the lady who was running the shops, whose name escapes me, it was an English lady, kind of took pity on me. She said, well, look, the easiest shop to work in is that shop over there. And it was the one full of underpants and socks and bras and knickers and stuff like that. And basically, for the first 2 days of the cruise, you'd be inundated with Italians looking for underpants because they'd lost all their luggage. So I would just hold underpants up and just mime sizes and stuff like that. And for the first 3 months, eventually I learned a little bit of Italian, so I could tell them they were big or small. The underpants, not the people. Yeah. And then it just, so I did that. Yeah, I loved it, to be honest. It was great. It was great. I used to you could be 7-day, 14-day, 7-day cruises, and once the first couple of days were out the way, I used to just go on my own cruise for 2 weeks. It was brilliant. But yeah, so if you ever need any help, mate, you know what I mean, I'll sort you out. Throw some few pair on.
It's all grist to the mill, or whatever the saying
absolutely.
is.
Yeah. You know what? I mean, it was a cracking experience, really, in a way, because I learned. One, it's great because I tell you what, there's no more sense of adrenaline when your ship is pulling away from the quayside and you're thinking, I don't speak Italian and nobody knows yet, so that's good. And what are they going to do? Throw me off, so I'll just battle through it. So that was exciting. But also, I met so many, it was a brilliant job. I did it for years, not just the underwear, so I ended up working on loads of different ships and stuff. And I loved it because you just met such a wide cross-section of society. And I do believe it helped me in later life when it come to being a copper. It definitely helped me. But it also, it helps with your writing, because I think the more people you meet, personally, the more people you meet, I think the more characters you've got in your head, so I can revert to people if I'm ever struggling.
Completely. And do you think... because I know, from your story, I think you had your first novel published when you were 46. Were you?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And there's a lot of people. Yeah. There's been a lot of stuff again in the press fairly recently. People talking about, it's all about the latest bright young thing and all that kind of thing. But surely that is one of the best things about coming to professional writing, especially when you're older, is you've actually got something to say. You've actually lived some of your life as you've experienced stuff. I
love being a dim old thing, and I always think that it's how can that be a bad thing? I just don't understand how an experience of life can be a bad thing when it comes to writing, or anything really, to be honest with you. I'm also, the number of people, I did a book club the other week in Chester, and I went along, and a lady there who was she must have been about, well, I better be careful here, but she was old, she was of a certain age, and she said to me, she was pensioner, and she said to me, I've always wanted to write, and I thought, oh God, why haven't you written? Just have a go then,
Yeah, just do it.
I always wanted to be a writer, and I failed my English O-level, it's well documented, didn't go to university, all of that, ended up working, and I was a bin man for a while, I've done all sorts of different things. And if there's one thing I regret, it's not writing sooner. But if there's one thing I'm glad of, it's the fact that I didn't write sooner, because I'm convinced I'm a better writer now. And because I didn't, I didn't start when I was 20 and get rejected, or I didn't start when I was 20 and get into ways that how I imagine the world to be. I've kind of been out in the world now, and I kind of know the score, and I'm old, and I've got scars, and being a copper and being a taxi driver taught me a lot about life and stuff like that. And I just don't see how it can be a bad thing. I also think it's an adventure, and there's, writing it should be, I think, an adventure. When you sit down at that page, if you're not excited about where you're going on that page. You shouldn't be writing it. You're doing something wrong. And I think that, when you get to a certain age, sometimes it's harder to get adventures in life. So if you're struggling for a bit of excitement and a bit of adventure, sit down and write one. You'll feel better for it, whatever age you're at.
Absolutely. And when you mentioned there, because that's obviously something that's played on your mind and sort of throughout your 20s and 30s or whatever, did you have a lot of self-doubt when you started writing that first novel? Did you have to kind of push through that? And did you worry at all about that you needed some kind of particular kind of educational background to do it?
I did worry that I needed an educational background. I'm still, I've published 3 novels with HarperCollins and had glowing reviews in the Wall Street Journal and, big papers in the States and in the UK and stuff like that. And I've written for The Guardian. I had amazing. I think it was the second highest number of shares for a piece that I'd written for The Guardian for. And the person who had the most number of shares was J.K. Rowling, and stuff like that. So unfortunately, they didn't all buy a book, but still I'm pleased with that.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
So even after all of that success that I've had, I still feel inferior when I'm sitting down with someone who's got a degree in English literature or something like that. I still feel inferior about that. And I did have doubts, but I was lucky that I'd written for a few magazines, and doing that had given me a little bit of confidence because I'd had some good feedback before I started the book. I'd got good feedback from those articles that I'd written, But when it comes to when it came to things, when I first sat down to write, I mean, my punctuation was awful, I still don't know what an adjective is. You know what I mean? I just, and that was awful. And I had to, as I went along, I had to relearn a lot of stuff that I'd learned at school. I had to literally did, because you're writing police statements and stuff, and it doesn't matter if you miss out a semicolon because the thing's covered in blood anyway. So like if when you're sitting down writing a book, it's easy to let those things scare you off the next word. So for me, the hardest part was just saying, do you know what? I'm just going to keep typing here, and I'll fix that later. And it was simple as that. That's why God gave us word. I can go back and I can change this and I can change that, and learn as I go along. Unfortunately, after the first 100,000 words, you should pretty much have it down by then, I think. If you haven't, you need to go back and start again.
Do you think people mystify the process a bit too much sometimes?
Oh, God, not half, mate. Honestly, I really do. I think that it's such a shame as well because I hear people intellectualising, writing and stuff like that. And do you know what? All we're doing is what people used to do around a campfire. There's no two ways about it. We're just sitting talking into a book and somebody's reading it out. And it is grossly over-intellectualised as far as I'm concerned. You pick up The Guardian. I was reading The Guardian the other day about, I won't name the writer, but they were banging on about the torment and stuff like that, and yeah, you can have torment. I get upset when I'm writing sometimes because what you're writing is emotional and all of that. I get all of that, but you know what? Writing isn't that hard. All you've got to do is tell a story. It is that simple, and we've all done it. Be it, kicking a can down the road and doing a match commentary in your head, or telling the lady next to you in the hairdresser's what happened that morning. We've all done it, and it's just an exaggerated formula, and it's not that hard. And I sometimes wonder, do people put barriers in front of themselves because they're a little bit scared of leaping into it? But if anyone's listening to this, I genuinely mean it. Just have a go. What's the worst that can happen? You're going to scare the cat at 5 a.m. when you shout it, right? It literally, just have a go of it, and you'll only get better doing it.
That's brilliant. It's really, really inspiring advice. So just as we wrap things up then, so just tell us what's up next. So when obviously An Army of One is out, it's out in hardback at the minute, isn't it, on Kindle?
Yeah, out in hardback and Kindle from all good bookshops. And in both the US and the UK. The paperback is due out, and if I was more professional, I'd tell you when, but I think it's August. The paperback's due out if you're that tight. The paperback's out then. Actually, at the moment, The Darkest Hour is on offer on The Darkest Hour, which is the first in the series, is on offer for £1.59 on the Kindle.
Well, go and get it. It would be my advice because it's brilliant. Yeah. It's a brilliant book.
That'd be my advice as well. That'd be exactly how I feel.
That's strange. It's like, we're almost on the same page here.
Almost, mate. Yeah. But no, so that's out on offer at the moment. So I don't know how long that's going to last for. I only know that because HarperCollins told me the other day. So yeah, and that's August and stuff. And like I say, I'm working on 2 books and a script at the moment. And,
so what's the script? Is it a script, a TV script or film script, or can't you say?
It's a television script. It's a television script, and it's I don't know what I can say, to be honest with you, because I've not read the contract. But it's so probably better not to say too much.
Yeah.
But it's a television script, and it's quite different from what I've been writing. But I just thought I'd have a go with it. Again, it's that thing about being
brilliant,
that daft that you just think I'll have a crack at that.
Well, I know I'm not the first person to say this, but your John Rossett novels seem to be crying out for a TV adaptation or a film.
I know you're not the first person, mate, because I've been saying it for years, but nobody's listening.
No, but they read like that though, and obviously they kind of flavour of the month again at the minute. I know I forget what the name of it was, the one that was on a few months ago, or whatever. I think you were tweeting about it as well, but the one the BBC did.
Yeah, it was on.
Yeah. And
it was. Do you know what? It's a shame. SSGB. It was Len Dayton. Who I love as a writer. He's amazing, right? And by the way, does amazing recipes. I don't know if you ever seen his cookbooks, but they're absolutely fantastic. Weirdly, but SSGB is a brilliant book. But I don't know.
I didn't like the adaptation. I didn't like it. Yeah, I didn't like it.
Yeah, very slow.
It was really, really slow. Yeah. I mean, I like Len Dayton as well. I haven't read that book, but all those books. But yeah, I was the same. I thought it was really, really slow. But I just think the stories that are they do kind of read like, well, not like film scripts because it's a novel, but do you know what I mean? It is very visual and.
Do you know why I write like that?
Fast paced, yeah.
Yeah, I don't really plan too much. It's that thing about just getting the words out again that I was saying before. So I write like that. I'm almost copying down what I can see going on in front of me. It's almost like contemporaneous with me. I'm just writing it down as it's happening in front of me. And I think that's why they do come across like that, quite fast paced and quite atmospheric and stuff, in that regard. I love all that. The Third Man, we're talking to my partner about it tonight, Anna, and we were talking about The Third Man, and she confessed that she'd never seen it, Orson Welles and all this.
Oh, that'll be great to watch that together.
I'm really looking forward to it. And it's but that to me is, those great scenes of like Vienna and rain-slick cobbles and harsh black sharp shadows and stuff like that. That's how I love that. I love writing that stuff down. So that's how I think they come across.
Well, the second book, the second book has got lots of those kind of really atmospheric kind of scenes, because that's set in the winter, isn't it, if I remember right?
Yeah,
there's a lot of snow and stuff, yeah, and it's really atmospheric. That's kind of feels like that, and kind of quite claustrophobic in places as well.
Oh yeah, I love that. That it was based on that terrible winter in 1946. When they had like 4 foot of snow, in 2 days or something. So I set it during that period just to make it, because it's so alien as well to the UK now, isn't it? We
completely,
apologies if you got stuck on a train last week, but
for 4 centimeters of snow or something.
But so I love that. I love that kind of feeling of extremes, cold weather or darkness or whatever. I love that sort of sense that, because I write at night, I'm sitting at my desk now, and I've got my desk light on, I've got a big window in front of me and stuff, and I like the darkness and I like the way the light shines. I love them sharp edges and stuff. So that's how I try to write it.
Yeah, well, let's hope that eventually someone sees sense and picks one of them up, because they'll work great for TV or film.
Thanks, mate. Let's hope. Tell you what, let's hope. Not half as much as I am, but yeah, let's hope.
So where can people find your stuff online and find you online?
Well, it's all TonyShuey.com is the website. I'm all over Twitter. I love Twitter. So if you ever want to get in touch with me, it's Tony Shuey at Tony Shuey on Twitter. And Facebook and all of that, Tony Schumacher. The books are everywhere, mate. But I don't know, we all say Amazon, don't we? But you know, I like companies that pay tax. So if you've got a local bookshop, go and pay. Give them a ring as well, you know, because I'm sure they can order them. But we're all over, like, I'm all over Amazon and stuff like that. John Ross at Thrillers.
I'll put them in the show notes as well. But I really appreciate you coming on. It's been really, really good fun and inspiring as usual.
Brilliant. Thanks for having me.
There you go. I hope you enjoyed the interview as much as I did doing it, and I highly recommend you check out Tony's books, starting with the first in the series, The Darkest Hour, and remember that An Army of One is out now in hardback and on Kindle. That wraps things up for this week, but don't forget to subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever else you grab your podcasts, and do leave us a review. It takes mere seconds and helps others to find the show. Speaking of finding us, you can go to joinedupwriting.co.uk to find our entire back catalogue of episodes. You can tweet us at JU Podcast and follow us on Facebook. You can also tweet me at Mr. Kelly2U, and I would love to hear what you enjoy about the show or any other ideas you have to help me improve things. So thanks for listening to Joined Up Writing. Let's get joined up. I'm Wayne Kelly. Happy reading and writing, and I'll see you next time.